So hello again, and welcome to phase 2 of me biting off seriously way more than I can possibly chew with this new plane. A quick bit of history: this plane is obviously a DC-6. This sim version was made by PMDG and released yesterday. I'm going to bring up some history on the plane. The Douglas DC-6 is a piston-powered airliner and cargo aircraft. I'm using the cargo version today, which is the DC-6 Alpha version. The Bravo is the passenger version. Built by Douglas Aircraft Company between 1946 and 1958. Originally intended as a military transport near the end of World War II. It's a big brother to the DC-3, the Dakota. It was reworked after the war to compete with Lockheed Constellation in the long-range commercial transport market. More than 700 were built, and many still fly today in different cargo and military configurations. The DC-6 was also known as the C-118 Liftmaster in the United States Air Force. Its service in the United States Navy before 1962. Then they switched it to the Navy called it the R6D until 1962, and then they adopted the C-118 Liftmaster version designation. Operational history: in April 1949, United, American, Delta, National and Braniff were flying DC-6s in the United States. United flew them to Hawaii, Braniff flew them to Rio de Janeiro, and Panagra flew Miami, Buenos Aires, KLM, SAS and Sabina flew DC-6s across the Atlantic. Pan Am used DC-6Bs to start the transatlantic tourist class flights in 1952. See, obviously it's a 4-engine aircraft. I'm trying to get some more tech specs. Current operators: there's one DC-6 based in the UK for a private charter. It's painted in British Eagle colours and appeared at many air displays. There is also a Red Bull version in Austria. Namibia Commercial Aviation runs one. So yeah. So basically, the idea today, because this released yesterday, and I spent most of last night running through the checklists and the manuals and stuff like that, trying to figure out how on earth you meant to fly this thing. There are tutorial videos for it on YouTube, which I've watched most of them up until like the last 2 or 3, which are quite in depth on fuel management and stuff like that. But the basic first 5-6 videos are just about how to start the aircraft, what the functions of the aircraft are, interfacing with the aircraft. If I pop into the cockpit, as you can tell, I've been catching up on the training manuals. So at the moment we are configured with all the steps in place. All the oil drain pans are under the engine, the access steps are in, the cargo doors are open, all of which I'll have to sort out before I can start up and take off. But to say, this is the cockpit of the DC-6. Both versions, the cargo and the passenger version, have the same cockpit obviously, but there's just slightly minor differences with the way the cargo doors and passenger doors operate obviously. Now, looking at this, like I did for the first time, it's a little bit overwhelming. I'm used to a lot of glass displays in the cockpits of the aircraft I fly, like the 208 Caravan, and more recently the Beechcraft King Air, which has got the big 3 screens that sit across the front here. This is old school. This is pre anything of that description. It has got an autopilot, which we shall go into a bit later on, and it has been retrofitted with a GPS and more modern radios, simply because the original radios wouldn't function correctly today with the kind of frequencies that they're using for air traffic control and stuff like that. I think that's it. That's what I'm believed to have been told anyway. So the main interface for this aircraft is this little iPad looking thing here. If I just get it a little bit closer in, zoom in, zoom. So it's got a lot of tabs across the top. The ramp manager is this screen, which controls all your kind of configurations for sitting on the ground. You can open and close cargo doors, you can put the pitot covers on, you can put the oil pans underneath the engines, the access steps and stuff like that. This also gives you a quick aircraft state option, so you can set the aircraft to cold and dark, which means everything is pretty much how you find it. First thing in the morning when you're going out, it's all switched off, it's all cold, it's all dark, no power, no nothing. You can set it to ready to start, so that will kick in everything that needs to be up and running for you to actually crank it over to get the engine started, and ready for taxi, which is engine started, and away you go. The fuel management and load management, which this is the first thing I'm going to put down as the thing that, well, I'm going to say this is the second thing, because this iPad is a top notch thing to have in the sim. This is the second point I want to make to why I think this is probably a new benchmark for Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you see, I've got all the fuel stuff here. I can set to 100%, I can set to 50%, just quick, or you can alter them individually. Now if you alter them individually, you can unbalance the engine, unbalance the aircraft. So what they've done is they give you these two just so they distribute the fuel. So if I set it to 100%, that gives me 100% fuel. If I set it to 50, it puts the fuel where the fuel should be, in accordance with the DC-6 recommendations. Now what the most interesting thing is, I'll just go back outside again and just quickly spin round and show you the cargo area. You can see the cargo area is empty. There's nothing in that cargo area at all. Now in the other planes, for first of all, you don't get the doors opening in the standard planes, but in this one, figure out how to save views as well, which is getting annoying. Keep going in and moving the view around. But in this one, as soon as I start adding, say I'm going to put some stuff into the main cargo hold. So if I scroll up a little bit, that's 3,500 pounds of cargo. Now if I go into the outside, it's added cargo into the back of the plane. It's generic. No matter how much you add, it'll be the same looking, but the fact that they've modeled it with and without cargo is a big plus in my opinion. And if I do the same for, I think this should be right, the underside ones, yep, you can see that the cargo appears in there, and it's little touches like this that you'll see as I attempt to fly, that give this plane that something that I think we've been waiting for since the sim launched. I don't know how well the flight dynamics are compared to the real aircraft, because I'm not a pilot myself. I did do a few lessons for my private pilot license before this whole COVID thing kicked off, and I am hoping to get back to it, but that's about as much. I've done more flying in sims than I have in real world, obviously. But so yes, I'll go back into cockpit and we shall remove that cargo, because this thing is a beast to fly, in my opinion, without cargo. So I'm going to leave it. Oh, with cargo it'd be even worse. So get rid of that. So that's literally the first and second screen. Now this is where it becomes interesting. Because this plane is normally crewed by 3 people, you've got an artificial flight engineer that accompanies you, and he'll help you to do different functions. He'll do checklists for you, he'll set the plane up to how it should be configured, for instance before the start, after the start, before the takeoff. You've got 2 different options of takeoff, a dry and a wet. I think the wet, they add extra fuel alcohol into the engines to give it more boost, give it more power, so that'd be like the water injection. Configured for cruise, for descent, for, I'm not sure what the in-range ones, I'm going to have to look into that one. As I say, this is a learning curve for me. I only got the plane about 8 o'clock last night, after I figured out how to install it. And then configured before landing, after landing, and parking up, which is when you park up, obviously, and the engine's all shut down. But it's all done to the DC-6 checklists. I haven't downloaded the checklist yet, and to be fair, I think it's in, when you download it, I think you get the checklist in the files somewhere, and I haven't been through to have a look to have a find of it yet. So that's item number 3, which I think is something that makes this plane probably the new benchmark. Item number 4 and 5 are coming up. So I went flying this morning. I had, if I go into options quickly, I had realistic engine damage on, realistic starts, realistic carb heating, realistic CB failure. I haven't left them 2 off. All these 4 were on. I was just cruising around, doing what I was doing. Wasn't paying much attention to anything, just kind of looking around. And then I went into the engine stress visualizer page and noticed that I was losing functionality on engine 1. It was coming up with mixture too lean. Well, of course I have no idea what I need to do to get that leaned back. I thought, I know, I'll have a look at my my idle mixtures. No, they all seem to be the same. There's no difference between number 1 engine to number 4 engine. But it kept going red. I thought, it'd be alright, it'd be alright. I left it. And then the engine cut out. And it feathered itself and it wouldn't restart. So, well, first thing I did is I turned off the realistic engine damage, because I have no idea what I'm doing at the minute. But then that brought me into this whole thing. The engine hours and the engine wear and everything is logged in the sim. I went into the files last night just to have a quick look around, and there's a little file in there that logs all the engine hours, all the flight hours, the total airframe hours, and stuff like that. And it logs everything, and if you don't keep an eye on it, you'll be flying and you'll have an engine drop out. Not literally drop off the plane, but you'll lose the engine, you'll lose thrust in that engine, you'll lose you'll get high cylinder head temperatures the more out of service they are. But this sort of thing, I think they could do this in X-Plane 11, but I obviously didn't play that. But this is the first aircraft that, to my knowledge, where this is in and functioning to this level. So all you do is you repair the engines. It's like having a service. and then you can service the propellers. Service the propellers? I mean, come on. So the engines are repaired. The service serviced the propellers. Top up engine 1 engine oil. Top up the oil in all of them. The water and alcohol quantity, I have to top that up. Auxiliary oil, make sure that's up, and anti-ice fluid, that's up. Total hours in this plane is 4.5 or 4.4? It's 4 point something, 4.45, call it 4.5. So yeah, this is your engine stress visualizer. Obviously you've got normal stress range, which is green, which is what you want to see. Moderate stress range, which during climb I suppose you could have a little bit of a moderate stress on the engine. High stress you don't want to see, and catastrophic stress you don't want to see, and that was what I was having on number 1 mixture. I don't know how to get that back to how it should be other than throttling back. There must be a way of doing it, but we shall see. And then in the options at the end, it's literally you have the option to turn on that, so you will lose an engine if you don't pay attention, which I did. Realistic start, if you don't do the correct start procedure, you'll just be sat there spinning the engines up all day. That'll wear them down and they'll start eating themselves. Realistic carb icing, if you're using this guy, he'll pretty much sort all that kind of stuff out for you, so he'll do the realistic start. So yeah, so let me see, come back out of that. So we'll just have a quick look around the cockpit. So obviously this is the main looking forwards bit. So your primary instruments are all here. You've got your artificial horizon, your altitude, compass headings and turn and bank indicators, airspeed. I think this one is for the autopilot, which is that's a learning curve in itself. So moving across, we've got all the engine dials and gauges, fuel pressure for all 4 engines, oil pressure, oil temperature, carb heat, water pressures. Those ones I can get my head around, but some of these other ones, obviously fuel flow is pretty simple, manifold pressure, RPMs and stuff, but there are some bits and pieces on here which I have not got a clue what on earth is going on with. If I could zoom out a little bit, I'll do that. Zoom out a little bit. So this is the top part of your throttle quadrant that sits between pilot and co-pilot seat. Try to have a play with this. It's a throttle interlock there, so you'll only use 1 and 4. See, I have no idea why that is a thing and why they're doing that, but it does it. This bar here, once it's powered up, I'll show you, that does allows you to do reverse thrust. So that's best left where it is. So this is just the back of the pedestal, and this has got the flaps, the park brake, all your mixtures. That is just a lock to stop you accidentally nudging them off. This is the autopilot. This bit here, this bit here, this bit here. Took me about an hour and a half just to kind of figure out how that engaged and what I needed to do with it. I'm still struggling with it, but we shall give that a go today. That's your carb. But if you set this guy to do that, you'll see all of this stuff kind of moving around by itself, because he's monitoring and adjusting your aircraft for you, which is when you're flying and you're seeing all these switches, and you don't know what half the switches do. Having this guy here is an absolute godsend. This is the top panels. These are your 4 engine feather switches, magnetos. This bit we'll get into in a minute when we start up. These are all the boost pumps, fuel boost pump. Not gone into alternate fuel boost pumps yet. to be fair, it's a case of I know what switches I need to use and I'm not clicking anything else at the minute. The idea being what PMDG have done is put this automated guy in to help you figure out what you need to do and when you need to do it, and you can kind of gradually come away from using him or using more or what have you. But that is, for this sort of plane, you need it. You need that extra person kind of monitoring stuff that you can't see, just so you can kind of keep it flying in the air. And it's why I think this is definitely a benchmark aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So next view, this is the forward-facing upper part of the panel. This is giving you your fuel quantities in all your tanks, your oil pressures, your oil temperatures, supercharger controls, cowl flaps which will open and close depending on engine temperature, landing lights, carb de-ice. So I can just do that. So yeah, and that is pretty much as I know at the minute. Oh, this big round thing is your rudder trim. See, I've still left to turn the helping tips on because I don't know what half this stuff does. But what we'll do, we'll get her up and running, I hope, because that would be embarrassing if I can't. So yeah, so basically what we're going to do, we're going to use this guy, but he's going to make me do stuff as well because he wants me to work for it. So when I click this, you'll hear the simulated flight engineer speaking to the simulated pilot, which is kind of me but not, if you know what I mean. And they'll go through their checklists and stuff. If the volumes are off, let me know. I've got the volume sliders up and I can adjust on the fly. So let me know in the comments if you need the sim volume up or my microphone level down, or a combination of the two. Okay, right, so we'll go.
Cockpit pre-flight.
So they're bringing the power back up now. Electrical power. Turning the fuel tanks on.
Voice recorder. Tested. Oil coolers and cowl flaps. Auto in position. Fuel and fluids. Checked. Pressurization. Set. Manifold and duct pressure. Checked.
Oh yeah, and this was the first aircraft with a pressurized cabin, I believe. Fully pressurized cabin.
Checked.
Yeah, monkeying around with the radios. Yep, they're shutting all the hatches. The two cargo doors on the other side do take a while to come down. Not quite sure why. I'll tell you one thing, after going through the checklist and getting these engines to fire up, it is actually a proper good feeling, because it's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, you can hit Control and E and that will start spinning up engine 1, but if you haven't got the aircraft fuel configured properly, you'll not even able to start it on the simple Control and E. So I think they have finished that. So the next part involves me, so bear with me. Now, the state they left it in, it should be, it starts with engine 3, and then engine 4, and engine 2, and engine 1, as far as I'm aware. So you start the inboard on the right side, then the outboard, and then the inboard on the left side, and then the outboard on the left side. So we'll go So this is all the switch. This is my boost pump. I need the boost pump on. I need the magneto on. And I have the mixture full rich on that. So here we go. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hit the start. And then what will happen is the propeller will start spinning. The chief engineer will call out blades, which tells me that it's rotating the engine, so it'll do 3 or 4 revolutions just to get it spooling, and then after that I hit the boost and then the prime, and then it should kick in if I've got everything in the right positions. So yeah, here we go. Good luck.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Cool, so we got 1 going. The next one we start is engine 4, so we put the magneto for both because there's 2 spark plugs per cylinder. I'll just turn that off quickly. Well, engine selector to 4. We'll go down, bring up the mixture full on that one. So it's mixture full, so I'm just running through the checklist in my head. And then fuel boost pump, same again, wait for 12.
6, 9, 12.
Boost and prime. That's 2 going. So we'll set number 2 is the next one. Magneto 2 on. Engine 2 selected, turn the boost and the prime off. Go down, so engine 2 to max fuel. And then same again.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost and prime. There we go, 3 of 4. So the last one is 1. I should be checking the fuel readings, but it's not going to kill it. So that should be the last one to start. Mags are on. Selectors on. That's on.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost and prime. There we go.
45 simulation 6 with Quebec request taxi for takeoff departure. CJMA 45 simulation 6 taxi to an all short of runway 07 using taxiway Alpha Charlie. Contact tower on 123.725 when ready.
So then we do the after start, and he'll just put all the switches back to how they should be.
Off and off. Battery switch. Plane venting. Generators and inverters. Checked and on. Emergency lights. Armed. Ground power. Removed. After start checks complete.
But if you notice at the minute, I'm manipulating my controls. You won't be able to see that. But I can move the rudder, but I can't move the yoke yet. This is what caused me to crash about 5 times yesterday before I figured out that there is a, what do they call it? I go down here. Gust lock lever, which locks the controls so you can't move them. It took me about 3 or 4 attempts yesterday to realise that I was never going to be able to take off because I couldn't move my yoke. So if you go to the next part of the setup, so we'll do the before takeoff.
Boost pumps on low. Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and Cockpit. Off and cold. Hydraulic system.
Just seeing what runway they want me
Quantity
to
checked. Okay.
use.
Flaps 20.
What's that down the far end? Okay. So I come out of this bay and do a right and just follow that all the way down.
Flaps set 20. Windows and turbine.
So this is just running through the pre-flight, getting the plane set up, putting the flaps down, getting the engines balanced and ready, setting the fuel.
On. Mixture and cowl flaps. Bridge unlocked. Set.
What I need to do for a couple of minutes is just let everything warm up.
Landing lights.
Give it a bit of throttle just to stop that shaking. There we go. They've even modelled that. The whole dashboard is mounted on bungees, pretty much, to kind of try and get rid of that oscillation. If I bring the throttles back to idle, or just above idle, you'll see that start giving it some right shaking. See it start coming back now. Just put a little bit of throttle in, gets rid of that vibration. It's absolutely nuts the level of detail they've gone to for different bits and pieces. I also need to bring it up a little bit because I've got a low oil pressure warning. There we go. So I need it just above there. Right, so that's the pre-takeoff checks done. So we're going to go down to runway 7. Should be the map again. Out of here, do a right, and then just follow that taxiway all the way down. And we're off. Pays to go slowly with this one because it takes a while to stop. I may have an engine conk out on the way down to this runway, but hopefully we'll be okay. So yeah, I can now move the yoke to full deflection, which is locked by that bar down by the side of the pilot's seat. That's obviously just a thing where when they park them up, it stops the ailerons from drooping and moving and giving it lift if there's a sudden gust of wind. That's all I can think of anyway. Yeah, a little secret, I've only actually landed this once. I've taken off umpteen times now, but actually landing I've only done once, simply because I only got the plane last night. But this is a completely new bag of bananas for me, but it's worth learning because it's such an amazing plane, and hopefully we'll start seeing more planes like this in the sim. She turns quite well, but there is a fine point that if you go beyond it, she'll just turn completely on her nose. engine, huh? Nope, still going. So while we're cruising down here, I'm just going to have a quick look at the stress visualizer. You can see they're all running in the green. Carb temps are in within icing range, so we'll have to watch that, or the engineer will be watching that. I see it's starting to clock up time on the engines already. I've got good oil quantity still. You can tell something's going to go south when the oil starts disappearing out the bottom of the engine. Wandering all over the place here. Too busy looking at stuff, that's the trouble. Oh yeah, by the way, we're at Bryce Norton, if anyone was wondering. Sorry for taking so long to taxi, but I'm pretty unclear on stuff at the minute, so I'm going to take my time. Windsock right in the middle of the taxiway. I'm not going that way. Right, nearly there. Yeah, so I've got me wheel brakes on a button rather than an axis on the joystick, so it's a little bit kind of on, off. There's no kind of gradual. I will sort that out. I might get that new Xbox flight yoke when that comes out, Velocity 1. That looks quite cool. I'm using Thrustmaster stuff at the minute, which does the job. So the next part of my impending doom, we need to get onto the runway, and then we're going to hit the takeoff dry button, and you'll see the flight engineer start sorting out the bells and whistles ready for takeoff. Yeah, once you build up a little bit of momentum in this thing, she doesn't like stopping. So we're going to just get onto the runway and then pull up and then activate the next bit. Right. So the next bit of the checklist is takeoff dry.
30 inches stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
So the flight engineer is now going to stabilise the engines, and then we're going to call for max power, and that's when I release the part brake, and we should spear off down the runway at the speed of 1,000 gazelles.
30 inches stabilized. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power.
As soon as I get that confirmation of full power, I'm going to take the part brake off. Sorry, I'm just drinking Red Bull again. And then we should be barreling down the runway. Throttles are going up.
Full power set.
Full power set, part brake off. So I've taken off a number of times in this, but never actually landed, so just going to fold away this iPad a little bit. We're heading into quite a wind, so it shouldn't take too long for it to pop up. There we go, we're off already. The flight engineer will then bring up the, when I've got a positive rate, gear up.
Gear selected up.
See, I'm not doing any of this, I'm just flying. My throttle is all the way back to 0, and I'm just hand flying it on my joystick. I have trim control, but the rest of the stuff is all done by the flight engineer. What I'm going to do is just keep climbing until we get above these clouds, and then I'll set the autopilot and we'll just have a cruise around. But you can hear him calling out different things. And it helps me as well to know where I am in the flight and what's going on.
Meter power set. Climb power. Setting climb power.
So just setting climb power. I'll trim those down a little bit. There we go. I don't want too much of a climb. I'm going to take it steady.
Climb power set. After takeoff checklist.
Bringing the landing lights off.
After
Realized
takeoff
towards Tower CJ-M845 simulation 6 frequency change. Oxford approach CJ-M845 simulation 6 is type 5 miles south of Echo Golf, Uniform Juliet, 2,600 feet. Request
Yeah, I'm hand flying it at the moment. We'll go up above these clouds and then I'll put the autopilot in.
Squawk 0325 CJ-M845 simulation 6. CJ-M845 simulation 6 radar contact 4 miles south of Echo Golf, Uniform Juliet, 3,200 feet. Altimeter 29.97. Roger, CJ-M845 simulation 6.
We're starting to hit the lower level of clouds now. The weather is set to live. I'm just looking out my window now, and it is not too dissimilar to what it's showing. The time is set to live as well. Sometimes you get a little bit of disparity between what's actually supposed to be the weather and what actually is outside, but I'd say 80% of the time the sim gets it right. So we're on a nice little slow ascent above the clouds. Coming up to 5,000 feet now. You can see the bottoms of the clouds are just below us. Put some lighting on. So we're into IFR conditions already, which is something I shouldn't be doing. A little bit of white out today. If I can get between these two layers of clouds, that'd be quite nice. Let's see how we do it. Cool, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, first of all put it into cruise mode through the engineer, and then start playing about with the autopilot, which is a flipping mental job in itself. So we go into here, set cruise, so you can start setting cruise power, get the engine set up for cruising. Now what we're going to do, this is my autopilot. It's a mechanical autopilot with a clutch. Don't ask me what it does or how it works, but I hit this, hit that, do this, and the autopilot comes on.
Cruise power is set.
So that should now hold me level. Yeah, there we go. It has a few little oscillations. It's all gyroscope, so it'll take a couple of seconds for it to level itself out. That should hold me at just over 8,000 feet, and it should do that all day, unless I interfere with it. So my current heading is, I think we're just off north. Let me confirm that, because I'm not 100% sure. Because there's half a dozen things that have got compass flipping things on. I don't know which one I need to look at. Yeah, we're heading north. So what I'm going to do is bring us left and get us bang on north, and we're going to head up, because apparently the weather is a little bit better up towards Carlisle way. So we're going to go that way. So what I need to do is come down to the autopilot again. Use this one. Look at that. This is my turn. This will turn the aircraft left and right by dipping the wings, obviously. It doesn't use the yaw at all. This one is like your aileron trim up and down, so that will give you nose up, nose down. That one I haven't got working yet. I don't know quite what I need to do with that. If I just zoom over this way a little bit. This one here is set at the moment to gyro pilots. This, or what I set here will be, so if I set it straight ahead, I'll fly straight ahead. But if I switch it to localizer, it should, from what I've been told, pick up the GPS. But as always, I'm not quite sure how that's meant to work. Yeah, see, it's kind of, it's a learning curve, as they say. Right, all I'm going to do, I'm going to use this map and that as a kind of reference. I'll look into how that actually works.
London Center CJM 845 simulation 6 8100.
CJM 845 simulation 6 London Center altimeter 29.906 continuous climb.
That wasn't good. Why did that do that? Ah, because I was in gyro pilot mode. Let me do that. Let me do that. And that.
CJM 845 simulation 6 contact Oxford approach on 125.09er.
Going to 125.09er CJM
Yeah.
845
So it's
simulation
going to be procedural errors left and right.
CJM 845 simulation 6
As I say, I'm not a pilot and I know even less about this plane, so I shall do my best. just checking the stream back just to make sure the levels are alright. If there is any issues, just give us a shout in the comments and I'll alter the volumes to suit you better. So yeah, I need to learn the procedures for the autopilot again. I did watch it last night and he did set it up to run off of the GPS course that I put in, that he put in the tutorial video, but for some reason it didn't want to follow, which is probably me not knowing how to use this thing more than the actual aircraft. But yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this pink line, which is my course. We're going to head up north and then we're going to end up landing in Ireland, Northern Ireland, which I thought would be quite nice. I've not flown over Ireland at all, I think. I don't know, it seems to be one place that is missed. I've missed while I've been flying in the Okavango Delta. I've been flying Australia, New Zealand, but I haven't done a lot of flying back home. So it'd be like, yeah, we could do a nice couple of trips around England actually in this. Around England. I'm currently doing a world tour. Just done the first leg in America, but that's going to be a separate video series, and I'll do these bits in between. The first couple of legs of that trip will be over the North American, northwestern side of America, San Francisco downwards, into the north tip of South America, across down Brazil, and kind of eastwards from there. Basically it's following the route of Amelia Earhart, so yeah, it should be good. So I've done the first one, still having fun doing it, so yeah. So this you and me looking at this for the first time pretty much as well. I mean, I looked at this last night, but trying to get my head round some of this stuff. Obviously I know what the flaps do, landing gear, that's the thing that stops me moving this, the yoke when it's on the ground. So all of these, all the autopilot, that's completely new to me. Don't know what these do. I think these VHF, that looks like radio stuff. Let's do a right turn in a minute, but we can wait for that. Propeller pitch, all this stuff at the moment is being controlled by the flight engineer, so I'm going to leave that well alone. If you're using the flight engineer and you leave the little option ticked, it will carry on controlling it for the cruise setting. If I turn that off, it gives me back control of the throttles and stuff. And so, I mean, I'm moving my throttle up and down now, and that's not doing anything because the flight engineer is controlling that. Anything with a red cover on it is an emergency something or other. These ones in here, I can shut down the engines. That's for, put CO2 into the engine if I've got an engine fire. Yeah, sort of fire suppression system. I'm going to have to have a read of that as well. There's so many different systems on this plane that are actually working, unlike other planes where you'll get it represented but it won't actually do anything. But pretty much every one of these buttons and switches and knobs and dials does something, and at the minute me trying to figure out what half this stuff does is absolutely mind-blowing. I've pretty much learnt to start it. Oh yeah, I was going to show you this other thing as well. It's flying on autopilot all right. But even the fuses at the back of the aircraft are modelled. I'm not going to play with any of that, but what I'm going to show you is if you look at that GPS screen there, and you see this GPS 5 amp or 10 amp fuse. If I switch that switch, that cuts power. Now apparently these fuses and trip switches could trip in flight, and you have to manage that as well. So yeah, I mean, possibilities for this are numerous and growing daily. I almost wish that I could have started the round the world flight with this and kind of sorted out the right runways, the long enough runways for this, because that would have been an absolute blast to do a round the world trip in this thing. But I've got a plane already set up for that, so I'm going to
45 simulation. 6 contact transport approach on 135.75.
yeah, and that's probably
Going to 135 decimal 875 CJM 845 simulation 6.
reason number 7 or 8 why I think that this is a new benchmark for Flight Sim 2020. And I'm actually looking forward to when the I don't think they'll get this plane, but when the Xbox console gets this and we get a whole load of new players coming in, that's going to be absolutely awesome as well, because this deserves a hell of a lot of people playing this game at simulation. So that's that panel over there. Voltmeters, manifold pressures. This is obviously the co-pilot's copy of stuff as well. What we've got here, CO2 bottles for the fire system, anti-icing, fire detection tests. Yeah, see, all of these are modelled. Crazy. It's almost to the point where you don't want to, when you're flying anyway, I'm not going to be clicking switches because everything does something and you don't know, at the minute I don't know what half of it does. Emergency lights, auto feather. Ooh. No smoking light, seatbelt light on, beacon lights, wing illumination, cloudy at night. Entrance lights, emergency lights. Yeah, I mean, when they were doing the tutorials for this plane, before it actually released, they were like saying, yes, this plane has 1,000,000,001 lighting control switches, and they're not wrong because they're everywhere. There's like 3 or 4 over here, more down here. Pitot heats. Thing is, it all works, and that's kind of like the first time in an aircraft where I've got in it, and literally 99.9% of everything that's in here works and does something. More light switches, transponder. Shut that tablet down a minute. The windscreen wipers. Obviously I haven't turned the power on for that somewhere, but Something else I need to learn. Right, so I'm gonna head north again. That should bank us round to the right, and I'll keep an eye on the map. Have to put the GPS tracking back on. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to learn how to get the GPS tied into this. He made it look so simple in the tutorial video, but at the moment it's escaping me. That should now. That should do for now. Back straight again. Right, well I'm going to shut up now and fly it for a bit. I might put some music on in the background. In the comments, if there's anything you want me to show you on the plane, let me know. There's functions upon functions upon functions on this. I know the basics, just possibly, but it's going to be a proper learning curve, and an enjoyable learning curve to be able to fly this plane properly. As I say, I'm using the cargo version at the moment. There is a passenger version, so when you buy this plane, it's about £50 UK. You get two versions. You get the passenger version and the cargo version, which is the one I'm flying now. 10 liveries for the passenger version and 5 liveries for this one. I am looking into getting a custom one made by my good friend who done the last couple. I'll leave a link in the comments for this, for his Facebook page, so you can approach him to see if you would like any liveries done for the aircraft you use. I'm just going to alter the lighting in sim, just so I can show you what the aircraft looks like at night time. I will put it back to live. I just want to. So you've got a number of presets for lighting, inboard and external lighting. If I just go to here, drag the iPad up, go into here, and we've got off, exactly what it says on the tin. Turns all your lighting off, just for apart from your GPS, and I think there's a couple of little bits and pieces running, like the transponder and stuff. Then you've got a nice low level white light with a red on the top. Which I think looks quite nice with the white at the bottom and the red at the top. And this one is all red. That's for night flying. If I stand up here. Looks a little bit, you can see a little bit better. Just go back to that one again. So you've got the red on the top and the white down below. This one's a blinding floodlight one, which you probably use for checking pre-flight stuff, and you'd switch it to one of these two for your normal flight procedures. Yeah, I think it looks quite cool at night in this cockpit. I could easily fly for a long time looking at this. Not quite sure where we are. That looks like a nice view.
Black will approach CJMA 45 simulation 69,800. CJMA 45 simulation 6 black will approach altimeter.
Stars are nice tonight. Yeah, this plane is by far the best plane I have in my hangar. There are a couple of other planes like the CRJ that are modelled to very high standards, but for me, because I've not flown the CRJ, but for me this one is the benchmark now. I probably shouldn't do, but every plane that I fly from now on will be a kind of a comparison to, how does this compare to the DC-6? Or what systems does this plane have compared to the DC-6? Because the amount of systems they've included and the amount of functionality that's involved, the amount of stuff that works, the amount of stuff. If you want to role play this kind of thing, you could, with all the kind of cargo filling up and the doors opening and stuff like that, and the flight engineer setup, you could quite easily make hours and hours and hours of content just kind of role playing. I mean, I use Sky Park a lot, which is like a mission simulator. Similar, there's a couple of them about, but the one I find easiest to use is Sky Park. And I can see me using this plane pretty much all the time now, doing long haul cargo runs, whereas before I was using my 208 Caravan or something even smaller like the Bush Cub to do a few bits and pieces, whereas the long range stuff never really appealed to me because it was only like the 320 or the 747 or stuff like that. But now this plane is here, this is definitely going to be a well-used plane, and I think in both versions, I'll probably use the cargo version more than the passenger version. But yeah, as I say, it's looking like I have 5 or 6 people in the chat, which is nice. So hopefully you're all playing nicely together. Haven't had anyone comment yet. It'd be nice to have a comment, just so I have something to talk about and someone to talk to. other than the voices in my head. But yeah. So what I'll do, I'll put it back to daytime, and then we'll continue on our flight towards Scotland before we hook a left before we're in range of their spears. That's live weather and live time. Oh, light out. So yeah, when I did my first PPL lesson, and we took off. It was only in a little ultralight aircraft, but he gave me the basics. Kind of, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take off. We're going to fly around a little bit, show you, just to see if you like flying and this sort of thing. He literally took off, did a 1,000 foot per minute climb, and punched up between these clouds. And literally all I saw was similar to this. Sitting up on top of the clouds, just kind of watching little bits of cotton wool float past, and from that point I think it was, I'm going to have to get into the PPL side of things again. It's quite an addiction once you get up there. I can always kind of feel, oh, I wish I was going to get back on that. I want to do this again. So hopefully, if I win the lottery this weekend, by next Friday I'll have passed my first couple of lessons again, and be on to getting the full PPL. Trying to figure out where we are. So we can rapidly approaching our left-hand turn. That's one thing I wish they do with Flight Simulator is in this. I know you can get add-ons. I don't know of any decent ones yet, but I wish they'd do a map where I can actually kind of zoom in and see, oh, I'm going over this town or this place. But yeah. So what I'm going to do is just carry on up this way a little bit, and then we'll hook a left. That's simply done because the runway is that orientation, and I can have a nice long glide into the runway in Northern Ireland.
118.775 CJM845 simulation 6. Manchester Center CJM845 simulation 6, 9,800 feet.
So at the minute we are still in cruise mode. Yeah, we're still in cruise, so the flight engineer is still looking after all the cruise stuff. Everything is in the green, which is nice, because when I fly it, this is like a disco board. I've got multicoloured lights going off all over the place. As I say, when I was doing the flight this morning, just to kind of set a few things up, I lost engine 1, mixture 2 lean went red on engine 1, and I thought, this will be fun. Nope, conked out. And then of course I had 2, 3 and 4 then start going to the moderate and then high stress levels across numerous different systems, and then the cylinder head temperature shot through the roof, and then I had to back it off completely, and that's when I went into the options and actually turned off the realistic engine damage. As much as I'd like to run with it on, I don't know enough yet about how to control the engines and stop them overdoing it. Just under an hour on the engines. In fact, I'm going to do a little. So yeah, this is the engine screen. This is the maintenance screen, I should say. This shows you the number of hours on the engines. You can repair each engine. You can service the props. As these go on and get more and more hours on them, you'll start to see these go obviously towards the end of the red, and when they go red, that's when you will have problems on them. They won't start, they'll conk out, stuff like that. The oil you start with is I think 35, so I'm losing oil at a slow rate on all of these engines, which is where the endurance of this plane comes in. I can't remember what they said, but I think it was let's have a look at actually. Yes, it was a number of hours simply because the engines drop that much oil and wear that much that it can't fly more than a number of hours before it's recommended to land and sort of do things out. Yeah, the stress levels are good. This is the loading page. As I say, when you add the cargo weight here, it actually visually adds cargo into the cargo bay, which is absolutely awesome. As I say, it's set for the cargo configuration now, so it's empty. In the passenger one, you'd see the passenger seats in there, and I think you can alter the kind of layout of the passengers and where they're sitting and stuff like that. But I'll probably do that one in the next video actually. My automated flight engineer is sorting out all my cruising needs, and that's back to ramp manager. So these are the states you can set the aircraft in. So you can set it cold and dark, which means it's just absolutely everything's switched off, everything's cold, and then you can set it for ready to start, and all you got to do is hit the switches, and away you go. Or you can set it ready for taxi, which is engines running, ready to go. There's a lot of kind of helpful bits and pieces in this PDA iPad thing that kind of assists you with getting used to the aircraft. I mean, what they said in the tutorial is once you get used to it, you can use this less and less. And obviously these bits you'll need to use it for, but you won't so much need to use it for like the lighting and all this sort of stuff that he's doing, because you'll be able to do it yourself. And that's the plan, is to kind of get so I know roughly what I'm at. Huh. Just realised I was just trying to shut that down and realised that the actual window opens as well. That could have been disastrous. Well, I think the ceiling of this aircraft is about 35,000 feet, but obviously I'm not pushing it yet, I'm just kind of bouncing off the top of the clouds at about 10,000. Let's just check our location. Yeah, we're on course. We're going to be doing a left turn in a minute. Trying to sort this. See, I don't know how to use this one. The other big screen glass cockpit aircraft I was in before, it's a lot easier to understand than this one. It's bad on me, I should have learnt how to switch between GPS and V-lock to provide navigation output and external, which is what I want. So GPS, so what's that set? GPS. If I go to GPS and then should be able to twiddle that to localizer. So I'm on course at the moment, which is not going to help me find out if it's actually doing anything, because I'm still flying in the same direction I was before. But I don't know what's coming. Ooh, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. GPS has now appeared in here. Oh yeah, I think we're on a winner here, because GPS wasn't in there before, and I'm seeing these lines in the middle. Oh, bonus. So I may well have sorted out the GPS issue I had before. It's turning slightly to the right as well. See, I don't even know how to use these steam gauges very well. That to me says I need something. It's going to tell me left and right, high and low, isn't it? But what it actually does. I mean, if anyone knows in the comments, please let me know, because I've not got a clue. I figure that I probably need to go a little bit left, sorry, a little bit right, and maybe down a little bit, but so it's bobbling around all over the place. Isn't this fun though? Look at all those switches I have to learn and stuff like that. This sort of thing, I mean, the first flight simulator I probably played was on the old Amiga 500, which was Shuttle, and that was a game where you took the shuttle up and you had to click all the switches and do all this and that sort of thing really got me into proper light flight simming. Well, as it was at then, and in the time, that the best it could be, sort of thing. But yeah, I countless hours I spent doing missions for that game. But I don't know what it is. It's just like switches. How cool! And I also had a habit of, when I was younger and a bit easier to get bored, just kind of go, oh, I wonder what this switch does, and just kind of yank the switch and see what happens. Which obviously I'm not going to do on stream, because that would end disastrously. Although, if anyone's got any ideas of which switch you'd like me to pull, I might have to think about it. Just let me know in the comments. So if I go into here again, the next waypoint is 34 miles away, and then we start doing the left turn, which will take us over and towards Ireland, and then I'll probably get halfway across here and then start a descent. It's Alder Grove we're heading into in Ireland, which I've not flown into before. I've not done anything with driving, to be fair. This is a shame. Beautiful country. As I was saying before, I've not done much in the UK. I've always been flying out in other places like New Zealand and Africa and other places like that, but maybe I need to be doing a bit more over the UK for people. I mean, if anyone wants me to fly to a certain place, or they want to see a certain place, or they want to see their local area in the sim, just let me know in the chat, and I can kind of, these ones where I'm kind of doing random flights all over the place, I'm more than happy to do if someone wants to go somewhere. So I'm doing the World Tour series as well, which is on the channel, and if you go into the main channel and then under playlists, there'll be World Tour in there. I've done the first one and a little introduction video. Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying that. I had a custom plane made, livery for a custom plane made by RCL, Rubina Custom Liveries, that's the name, I keep forgetting. So they're a big help. I've got about 5 of his planes now. I just tend to throw him a bone every now and again and go, I need a plane that looks like this. He either comes back and says, yeah, that's doable, no problem, which is 99% of the time, or he'll send me back a message saying, do you really want to do that? Well, that bit's going to be a bit of a pain. But he even managed to put a picture of Zana, my girlfriend, on the dashboard of the 208 that I fly. So yeah, I mean, I'll sing that guy's praises till the cows come home. Because having an aircraft that is yours in a game like this, where everyone is flying the same sort of thing, it's something different. I mean, at the minute I'm flying their livery that came with the plane, but eventually I'm going to get my own livery, so the plane feels a little bit more kind of mine, a little bit more kind of unique. I mean, most of the the liveries that I get, which you can get for free from flightsim.to. They've got thousands for all the aircraft in here in the sim, thousands of different liveries ranging from real world to fantasy ones to kind of, there was a Crocodile Dundee one for the 208, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, but it's that kind of community building that's going to make this sim one of the kind of best for the last kind of decade. Let's switch that back to autopilot. See, this is, I'm forgetting to do stuff. I need to set things. I can't just twiddle knobs. I need to think of things. Clutch that. Should be the next one. That's that. Back to the level. That should come up, and then bring that lever up, which puts the clutch into the mechanical autopilot, hit the altitude control, and then I do the left turn. Now I'm left turning because I wanted to avoid a big bank of cloud that's coming up at a rapid rate of knots. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the corner on this and head up and then intersect it back this way. So I don't want to get his icing, and that big load of cloud I was heading to would probably give me some icing.
118.775 CJMA 45 simulation 6.
Now they said in the tutorial, if when you're using the autopilot to come into this view where you're sat behind the pedestal, because you can just line it up between, it's hard to see, but there's like the writing just in front of it, you can line it up between the gap, and that is dead on level. It's not flying straight. Altitude is still, what are we, 10,000? Nearly 11, or just under 10. Nearly 11,000 feet, I think. I say this is kind of the first time I've really flown a plane with the proper steam gauges. I mean, I've flown the Cessna and that has the 6-pack kind of set up in it. But when I've got 4 engines with, and I mean, look at this. I mean, 4 engines with 4 fuel pressure readouts, 4 oil pressure readouts, temperatures for everything. I could fly this for hours and just kind of keep looking at the gauges and stuff. It's fantastic. But I highly recommend anyone who's into this sort of thing to purchase this. Whether you think it's worth the money is up to yourself. You may do a deal at some point, or you may be able to get like a gift voucher off something for you for like Father's Day or birthday or something like that. But it's well worth getting involved with this plane.
119.875 for CJMA 45 simulation 6. Scottish Centre CJMA 45 simulation 69,800 feet. CJMA 45 simulation 6 Scottish Centre altimeter 29.9
Oh, the livery I'm using today was chosen by Zana out of the 5 that you get with the cargo version. And I think she did a good choice, to be fair. Looks really nice. There's a few other ones. There's a completely chrome one, which I think is one of the American airline ones. And there's a couple of others that have this really nice chrome covering for the engines, which is really good. I am a big fan of like the 50/50s where you've got the chrome on the top and the solid colour underneath with the chrome engine cowling covers. I actually quite prefer where the nose cone is this colour rather than chrome. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to alter the time of day again, sorry. But a little bit better. All the little ribs and the rivets and the panel lines and everything is just spot on. I mean, obviously this is the cargo version, so it's got less windows in it, but you can see where they've riveted the panels in to cover up the windows they're not using. That is a DC-3 thing as well. I've seen that on the DC-3. That was the plane I originally wanted to do the world trip in, but there is one on flightsim.to, but it's a bit on the Heath Robinson. They've MacGyvered it big time. It's got I think it's actually got the King Air cockpit in it, in this old DC-3, and I can't. Just well done for them doing the plane, and giving the option of people to fly it, but it's too jarring. So yeah, and then this thing, I knew this thing was coming. I didn't know when it was coming, but I knew it was in the works. There's also another plane which I will be getting very soon, which is the Kodiak, which is a similar version to the Cessna 208 Caravan, which I've flown a little bit. But the Kodiak is it's a slightly shorter plane, and it's a bit more bobtail, so you can kind of get it in and out of difficult places a lot easier. So we've basically taken off today from Brize Norton in Oxfordshire, and we're headed north, and we're slowly making our way kind of westward now into Northern Ireland. I'm going to be landing at Aldergrove in Northern Ireland. And then maybe the next flight I'll take will be from Aldergrove in the passenger plane to the southern tip of Ireland, and then maybe back across. That'll be for another day today. I just wanted to kind of get a video out and done of this aircraft. This is absolute bonkers. I don't know if there's anyone in the chat that actually flies this simulator, but I think they might appreciate just how much of a game changer this aircraft is going to be. I think all developers from now going forward are going to be, do we want to release this because the DC-6 just came out and it's got all this working on it and all that, and it's got this functionality, and I think it's going to get them hopefully to kind of take the extra time to get the planes in instead of just doing the copy and paste from FSX and kind of stuff like that. Which is, I'm not dissing anyone that does that. It's thank you for putting the planes in and letting us fly them. But the main developers, they've got their work cut out for them now, I can tell you that. Turning left. Yes, we're right bang on where we need to be turning. Just gone past it. Right, so let's go and have a play with this blinking autopilot again. So I reckon if I go to localizer, and that should be turning left if I'm getting this set up right. Oh yes, come on, you went left. Started going left. Yes. Yeah. I don't quite know how I managed to get it to work, but I think it's actually going to be following the GPS now, which is 2 thumbs up for me. So I've just grabbed my road atlas, and we are just north west of Dumfries. Oh, we went over Dumfries and then over Thornhill, and we are heading now at the moment towards Gavan. We should be. I think we're heading towards Larne, I think, in Ireland. Heading over Larne anyway. So yeah. Should be a bit of a left turn. I really want to see whether this GPS thing is actually working properly. I should get a... It seems to have picked up the route nicely. But I just want to see if I'm going to get a left-hand turn in a minute. Yeah, there we go, left-hand turn. So we're on the last leg of the trip now. Take us over the channel, sorry, over the Irish Sea into Northern Ireland. I've just found some more information on the DC-6. Passenger version can take between 48 and 68 passengers. It's 100 feet 7 inches long. Its empty weight is 52,000 pounds. Max takeoff weight is just under 100,000 pounds. It has 4 Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radial engines, each of which is 2,400 horsepower, with water injection as well. Cruise speed of 311 mile an hour.
Westbrook approach CJM 845 simulation 6.
See what.
Request clearance to transition Charlie airspace.
So I'm doing about just over 200. So we're gently plodding along. We're not doing the full 300 odd knots. Fuel capacity, this is for the passenger version, is just under 5,000 pounds or 18,000 litres, range of 4,000 nautical miles. I thought it was 35,000 feet, but it's listing the service ceiling of 21,900 feet for the passenger version and 25,000 feet for the cargo version. She'll climb at 1,000 feet per minute. Oops, because I was doing about 1,500 in that room. And I took off. But yeah. Interesting. But boring, I feel. Facts are one thing written on the paper, but when you can actually virtually sit in the cockpit of one and fly it around, it seems to come to life a little bit more. So have a quick look down again. So we're doing just over 200 and... What's happening? Just over 210. Altitude just below 11,000. Climbing a little bit. We're on GPS track. Engines are looking good. Running slightly hot on the oil temperatures. Slightly warmer than I was before anyway. Although I think they're at the green. Yeah, they're just above the green. And the fuel pressure is running right on the top of the red line, which is probably not good. Although the oil pressure is good, which is and the car there is very cold. Right, so I'm going to set the tell my dude to set up for descent. Get the iPad out again.
26 inches, please. Setting
So
26
they're setting the
inches.
manifold pressure to 26 inches. Bringing the throttles back.
26 inches set. Descent checkpoint, please.
Flight engineer's got a little bit of a South African twang to his accent, I believe.
Seatbelt signs on. On. Engine low is low.
This GPS track should take me straight in down the throat of the runway, basically, which is what I needed, because I don't want to be turning and mucking around too much. But we shall set the time back to live, just so I've got half a chance of seeing it when it arrives. I'd like to say thank you to my cousin Jojo, who has pretty much, how can I put it, she's embraced her full nerd when it comes to setting up PCs, and she's been tweaking mine over messaging, helping me sort out a few bits and pieces, and I reckon I've got an extra 10 FPS out of this sim, just for a few little options setting in the fan setup. So yeah, but I'm looking to get a few bits changed on this. I'm going to swap around hard drives, have a small SSD for the operating system, and then have a terabyte hard drive for the games, just so they're kind of separated out. And apparently it's good to have the operating system on a smaller fast drive and keep that as clean as you possibly can, and then dump everything else on the other drive. But I'm running at about, everything is on high and ultra, and I'm hitting 52, 51, 50, 51 frames per second, which is more than it was doing before. I mean, with the settings I had set before, I was only getting 40, 45 tops. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully that's an ongoing process, and I'll end up getting as much as I can out of this 2080 Ti before I have to think about getting a 30 series card, which is going to cost me an arm and a leg and probably a kidney. But yeah, but this thing is trucking along nicely, made by PC specialists. I think not last year, the year before they made this. And it was I think it was just when, in fact it was about 3 months before they announced the 30 series cards that were coming out, which pleased me no end. Yeah, it's great. Spec a PC, get it delivered, and then within like 3 months, Nvidia go, oh, by the way, you can have this card for, I think it worked out to be actually less than I paid for my 2080. That's the annoying thing. I think it was like 1,500 quid for this blinking graphics card, and yet the 3080 Ti's are nigh on £1,000. But hey ho, I'm not bitter much. Right, so we're not up massively high, so I don't need to be kind of panicking trying to get down. What I'm going to do, zoom in a little bit, and when I reach the coast I'm probably going to come off of autopilot, and then hopefully I need to be looking for that river on the way in on my right hand side. I don't think I fly over any other airfields on the way in. It's not showing any. There's 2 in the local area. This one had the longest runway. So yeah, we're heading for that one. Once I've got it down and landed, we'll run through the shutdown procedure, which the your dude will do for you if you're using this, or if you're clever enough that you're actually doing all this yourself. Your flight engineer will be doing that for you, and all the shutdown stuff. So I don't know what that in-range thing is. That I probably do with knowing what that is. So before landing, I'll hit that one when I'm quite close, and that should then put the gear down at the right speed, put the flaps down. I don't even know what the flap. Where is it? So here. Is that here? Yeah, it's there. So landing. Pretty empty, so yeah, 125 ish for the flaps, the full flap. Oh great, got a low cloud cover ready. Can't use that. Bungees. What they could do with adding is put in a little strap around there, because it's indentating itself in. It probably shouldn't be. If you put a little strap around there, it'll look lovely. Right. Monkey Boy is going to manual control now. Off, off. Pitch down just a little bit. Not too much. I will start getting blown off course. Ideally what I want to do is get down below that cloud, so I've got half a chance of seeing the runway. I'm getting closer. But yeah, this will be the second landing I've done in the plane. I've done umpteen takeoffs. So yeah, you're gonna have a treat watching me cartwheel this down the runway at Alder Grove. Right, I'm going to take back control from the flight engineer. So I'm going to bring that power back. Might get a little bit of icing through the clouds. I don't know what the outside temperature is. It shouldn't be too low. significant drift to the left going on as well. Right, so the airport is literally on the nose now. Before big area of water. There we go. Proceeded. So what I'm going to do now is get rid of that. Need to call that DC Aldergrove.
Aldergrove Tower CJ-M845 Simulation 6 is 12 miles northeast, 3,800 feet.
12 miles, okay. I'll wait till I get a little bit closer. And I'm going to click the flight engineer over to do the pre-landing checks. I need to lose a lot of that speed before I do. We're lined up, so before landing, nope, wrong one, after landing.
Flaps 20. Setting flaps 20.
That's the only thing you've got to be careful of, isn't hitting the wrong one, because he will just do what he wants. So that should be bringing the flaps down and then lowering the gear. We should just check. Time well off. Left. Trouble being that he's only going to bring the flaps down and the gear down when I'm going slow enough. So I need to lose some more speed.
Mistress Ridge, please. Auto Ridge. Mixture set. Gear up and down, please. Gear up and down.
Be happy when he puts the gear down, I tell you that much. Come on. Gear's going down, that's nice. I've got 1 green, 2, 3 greens.
Gear down and locked. 3 greens. Props. 2400 RPM.
This isn't nerve-wracking much. I'm slightly left. This one's a big old boat and it don't like turning very fast.
2400 RPM set. Cow flaps. Plus 3 degrees. Cow flaps set.
I'm slightly low on the glide scope, which I don't mind. I'm just coming up to the proper
Landing lights. Speed good. Extending lights.
landing lights on.
Norby. Calming calm. Set calm. Before landing checks complete.
Bit low, but I don't mind because I can use the power to just glide a little bit along the runway. Come on. It's not my finest hour, but she'll do. Start braking a little bit. I can use reverse thrust, but I'm not going to fiddle with that just yet. two are down anyway. He's either retracted the flaps very quickly or I didn't actually land with any. I can't remember him saying flaps were down, but I was only worried about the gear, to be fair. I might have come in a bit quick. Alright, calm down. Right, which way should we go off? I'm going to head over to the hangars you see over there, park her up, and then we'll shut down. I tell you what, it's hard to describe if you don't play these flight simulators or something equivalent. The sense of I don't want to call it fulfillment, but the sense of achievement, I think it's probably the best word, of actually being able to practice and practice and practice, and each time you start an engine, each time you do a takeoff, each time you do a landing, you get it that little bit better. I'm sure it must be, other people must find this in other sports they play and other stuff like that, but for me, all these different aircraft, all these different flights I do, each time is kind of a little bit of a oh, I got that landing a little bit better, I got that takeoff bang on where it should be, I got this flight I did perfectly, more, well, not perfectly, but this flight I did so much better than I did the last flight. It's always that little bit of incremental kind of learning, which is, I don't know why flight sims appeal to me for that. I mean, people play golf, people do other things, people go cycling, but for me, flight sims and games and stuff like that is my kind of, my little thing. I like to think I'm I'm getting better at these flight sims. But yeah, so I didn't cartwheel it down the runway, so you've got to be a little bit chuffed. Yeah, we're just going to park her up, and then we'll run through the shutdown. And then I might go into the hangar and show you the other liveries a little bit quick. There we go. Part brake on. If we speak to the flight engineer, and we'll do. Right, so we'll do the after landing, which I probably should have done as I was rolling down the runway, but.
After landing checks complete.
Cheers, mate. So we now do the park up, which is
Parking brake is set. Cut entrance.
shutting down all the engines. Hi there, dude. I'm not going to try and pronounce your name because I'll butcher it. I'm not noticing any difference between if I'm understanding your question correctly. I'm not seeing any difference FPS wise from the standard Asobo aircraft to this one. If anything, it seems to run a little bit better than some of the other aircraft. But that's obviously an individual thing depending on your setup and stuff like that. But overall, I'm 100% impressed with this aircraft, and PMDG for what they've done. Go back to the main menu. It can't be understated the amount of work that must have gone into getting this for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think there was a version of this that they were running in X-Plane 11, but obviously they've had to bring it over to Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I can without shadow of a doubt say it is the best plane that I have flown in Microsoft Flight Simulator so far. Should we just go into liveries? So this is the PMDG standard livery. They've done their own one. This is quite cool. It's very retro. All of these are quite retro liveries. Until we get into the passenger one, there's a few of them that are a little bit more futuristic. This is the American Airlines one, the mainly chrome one. So yeah, you got a nice steel-bodied with the steel-bodied engine cowlings, which is quite cool. These two have the chrome engine cowlings. I think, is it this one? Or is it this one? It might be this one. So these two are pretty much the same. This is the fuel and this is the cargo version, so it's exactly the same, just with different sign writing on the side and a different thing on the front. Go back out, come back in. You can have a proper good look around. Yeah, this is the one with the chrome engine covers. That looks stunning. I'll just quickly change aircraft. So this is the DC-6B, which is the passenger version. It loads in. And you get, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, you get 12 liveries. Sorry, not 10. I think this is the Red Bull one. Let me just check. Yeah, this is a Red Bull one. Apparently this is a real world livery on one of these. It's owned by some billionaire somewhere. But yeah. Yeah, I mean the level of detail on this, I mean the chrome work, the shininess of that underneath is absolutely stunning. I mean they even modelled the kind of burnt paint on down the back of the engines. I was flying it last night quickly at night time, and you can see like the flames shooting out of the engines when you're kind of really pushing them, and it's detonating out the back, and it looks absolutely stunning. They've done an absolutely fantastic job of putting the DC-6 into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I can 100% recommend getting it if you're playing this sim, if you're into this sort of aircraft, obviously. If you don't like this sort of aircraft, then it's probably not a great idea to get it. But yeah, just look at I'll show you the chrome. The chrome work on them engines. Look at that. That is mental. The whole like bottom part of the body is all chromed up. Look at that. Stunning. Anyway, I could sit here and watch this all day. I'd probably better not. So yeah, I think I'm probably predominantly going to be flying the cargo version, as that fits into kind of the Sky Park missions I'll be doing on the days I'm not doing the round the world trip. The round the world trip I'll probably do another video on during the week. I don't know whether I'm going to do a live or do a pre-record. I should have a think about that. It's all dependent on when I'm working. So yeah, but I'd like to thank everyone that sat in the chat and who's watching. It does make a big difference if you like and subscribe. I'm not asking you to 100% do it, it's up to you. But I am trying to get a bit of a community going around this flight sim and other games as well. Like I said in the last one, I mean, I'm not just going to do Microsoft Flight Simulator. If there's other games that people would like to see, I've got the Xbox Game Pass now, so all those games that are on there I'll be able to play, so it may be I'll do other games. So I'm interested in playing other games as well. I mean, I'm playing Mech Warrior, Albion Online, and a few other bits and pieces. But at the minute, I mean, flight simming is what I do and what I really enjoy doing. But I love other simulations as well. So yeah, if you'd like to leave a comment either in the chat now or afterwards if you're watching it, that would be great. Give me some tips, give me some ideas of how to make the streams more enjoyable for yourselves, because that's the reason I'm doing it, is I like this flying around malarkey, and what I want to do is have other people come with me and have the same level of enjoyment as I do flying around. So if you have any ideas of how I can do that, talk more, talk less, play more music, fly different planes, go to different areas, then let me know, because at the minute I'm just winging it. So yeah, hopefully I'll do another video in the week and I'll see a few familiar people. That would be absolutely fantastic if I could have a few passengers each time. Yeah, so thanks very much for watching. Leave a like, hopefully you'll subscribe, and catch me next time. Thank you very much indeed.